It is a combination of alpha kids and Gen Z. But parents cannot say don't play with it. Maybe this child becomes a robotic surgeon tomorrow, and if he is doing a surgery, fastest finger, if it is,
Everything in a controlled format is super important. I think that is very important.
started with, I felt I had a lot of things to do. So I, in fact, traveled through multiple career options and then
Welcome to another episode of Bridgeway Talks. Usually, I kind of do a research on what we need to talk about at the guest a couple of days before, and just come and do the whole thing impromptu. But this time around, I had to make notes. I had to write down a lot of things because really didn't want to fail my exams. Right? It's as good as that. Because today we are going to introduce you to somebody who's super special for the Bridgeway as a group, and one of the finer schools in this part of the world. She's a principal of one of the finer schools in this part of the world. She's part of Peevees School, and it's one of the finer schools in Nilambur. And we are so glad to have her here from her busy schedules. And you know how the school works. You have there's no weekends off for a school, and especially this being a residential school, I guess we know a little bit more from her, what she is all about and how the school works and all those things. And it is part of the Bridgeway Group, and that's very fascinating because it's the first time we are trying to get somebody from the Bridgeway Group leadership team to talk to us. And she is none other than Sreedevi Menon. Welcome, ma'am. Welcome to Bridgeway Talks. It's fantastic to have you here. And I think today, knowing the education system, I don't think you would have any time for yourself. So it's really a pleasure to have you here with Bridgeway Talks. And I'm super glad. One more thing, the reason why I'm very, very excited about this is the school belongs to Bridgeway, and you being part of the leadership team of Bridgeway as a group, we would like to hear a lot from you. So I'm just handing over the entire thing to you. Please introduce yourself, give us a background of yourself, what you're all about. We will talk in detail about the school and its functioning and things like that a bit later. Before that, I would like to understand, how did you end up becoming a teacher or a school principal? Was it a childhood dream, or you were born like everybody has that dream of becoming a scientist or a pilot or a doctor or an engineer? But I don't know, how is it there that I wanted to become a principal of a school on fine day? Was that the dream which you had? Yeah, over to you, ma'am. Please go ahead.
thank you, Mr. Girish. I think you've just set the tone just right. And when you just asked me to introduce myself, I think I'm super happy sitting here because as a team, I think we know each other. But then to talk about the educationist in me, I think that's a unique opportunity. So
Mm.
thank you for that.
Anytime.
And, to introduce myself, probably, I mean, commonly known as Sreedevi Menon, currently the principal of Peevees Public School, which is purely a residential school. So you rightly said, I think 24/7 is not the definition for us.
Yeah.
So it is much more than that.
Right.
And maybe when you ask me, how did I land here? Uh, I feel I'm a jack of all trades.
Okay.
But then started with, I felt I had a lot of things to do. So I, in fact, traveled through multiple career options and then reached.
Oh.
Because I started as a, um, airline staff.
Oh, okay.
That was my first.
Okay.
Then my next rebirth was as a journalist.
Okay.
Then I had gone to Air Force. Then, coming into teaching. So one fine morning, because I could find all these, I tried, I was quite passionate about all these things.
Very nice.
So I was able to connect with children even today, because when they come, they have a lot of things in hand, and they're all, they feel that um, they have a lot of talents and they wanted to explore these things. And I tried all these things, and finally I felt, when I reached as an educationist, I felt that is my cup of tea. And I think almost 30 years now.
Brilliant. I think it's very rarely we find a school principal who's a jack of all trade, right? What I understand is I had a school principal who's been a school principal as far as I know throughout his life. He started as a school principal, ended as a school principal. So I think that is how the whole journey of every teacher or every educationalist happens in today's world. But for somebody who is been in the airline industry, then getting into journalism, then getting into defense, that's sweet, and then becoming a principal. I think there's a lot of understanding of the world before you start giving that understanding to the students. So I think that's like absolutely brilliant. But how did you end up in Nilambur, and give me that story? How did Peevees happen?
All right. In fact, I think I spent around 20 years with Peevees,
Okay.
Saudi Arabian sector.
You were with Peevees in
Yes,
Saudi Arabia.
yes. So literally, if you see, I lived with Peevees.
Brilliant,
So if you
brilliant,
see,
brilliant, brilliant.
so I think when people ask me, what is that Peevees can offer, I would say I'm the best example.
Oh.
And my whole family, both my kids are PVIs.
Oh.
So what I'm trying to say is, I think I speak with that results at home.
Very nice.
So I think,
Very
that
nice.
makes more convincing for
So
people.
just for our viewers, Peevees is part of Bridgeway Group, and it's a school not only in Kerala. It's spread across various parts of the world, mainly in the Middle East. We have in, as ma'am was saying, in Saudi Arabia, where she is from. So I think, how is it that, how do you find the difference between Peevees in the Middle East, that is in Saudi Arabia, and the one in Kerala? Is the one in Saudi Arabia also a day hostel kind of thing, and the one over here, just like one over here, or is there some difference over there?
There is definitely a difference
Okay.
because in the Middle East, I think the Saudi Arabian sector, what we have is a day boarding school
Okay.
where the kids go back
day
home
scholar
in
thing.
the evening.
Okay.
They go. But even then, I won't call it as a day scholar, but I still call day boarding.
Okay.
The reason is there are much more things to offer.
Okay.
And I think that becomes very dear to me because I've just started from there.
Okay.
So even there in a day boarding school, we felt some time, I think there is a lot of things we can do.
Okay.
And I think Peewees was the first school where we used to have a summer program where the kids from Middle East used to come to travel to Kerala or different parts of the world. I think we have brought kids to Uttaranchal or different parts of the world where we used to have a camping and give them a kind of a real life experience. And then we send them. And there was something very interesting in one of the such camps. I could find a child was doing a jungle gym. And the child fell, and we had to take the child on an emergency. And then to have she had a fracture and she was on bandage. Even then, she said, with the other hand, I wanted to complete the jungle.
Oh, wow.
And that was the commitment, what I see in
The
kids.
competition spirit is
Very, very high. So even there, then we did that. I think here in residential school, we could do much more than that.
very nice,
So,
very nice. So there's another thing so when I was studying, that's, I think, I don't know, I'm from the Harappan culture, so it's like pretty old, 30 years back when I was studying, and when I was in school, it was more of by hearting things, and that's how I studied. I don't know how others did it. So you by heart, and you go to an exam, and it was purely 100% bookish knowledge, and you write down that in a piece of paper, and you get past scoring marks for that. And if you score high marks, you are considered good, and if you score low marks, now today I have a son who studies, but I think very rarely are we involved as parents into their, like, my parents were super involved in my studies. They used to wake up with me in the morning, and they used to sit with me, study with me. Not that it was necessary, but that is how the whole thing happened. But today we see a very different, because today the families, they don't spend too much time with the kids to make them understand the importance of education, and and I think the knowledge which comes out of social media, and what the information which is available out there itself is so huge, and sometimes it is so much of unwanted information which is there in the system, which goes out to give me a brief on how this affects the education system today, right? So the main reason is you have a lot of information coming into the children's minds today from the outside world than from the inside world. Earlier, from the inside world, it was more information. What your dad and mom says is what you do. You don't do that or you do this. But today, what the other says what you do. And we don't blame the kids for it, but that's how the whole world has changed. How does this affect the education system?
Right. That was a pretty relevant question, and
Yeah.
I find most of the parents are or parents to be are really eagerly looking at it.
Yeah.
And what I feel is in today's school system, I mean, when you say today,
Yeah.
it is a combination of alpha kids and Gen Z.
Yeah.
All right. Now, these two, when you compare itself, there are huge changes.
Right.
And maybe a couple of years ago, we used to say when a child is born, we say, we call it as tabula rasa. The child is like a clean slate,
Right.
we actions on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But today, if you see that the technological development and even the health sciences, the way it is developed, it actually says the child when it mother's womb itself, the child is listening to a lot of things,
Okay.
making lot of understanding in the small brain, and when the child is born, the child is able to respond to the situations
Right.
because one fine morning from the mother's womb, which is very comfortable,
Right.
very cozy, the child is out and the child is learning to understand the situations outside.
Right.
Now, as and when the child begins his life's journey, there are a lot of things the child is imbibing naturally.
Okay.
And even when we say the child is, and these kids are super fast
Right.
and they get a lot of informations. But as parents, like you said, the earlier parents were much involved in studies. But today, I think the parent must understand. We normally say that four types of parenting:
Right.
authoritarian, authoritative,
Yeah.
permissive,
Yeah.
uninvolved.
Yeah.
But I think we need to really understand the combination of all these
Right.
and see that you have a meaningful intervention at a consistent
Right.
level.
Right.
You don't do overboard things
Right.
because the child knows what to do.
Right.
But you have to only help the child what to pick, what to throw. That's the only thing. So assist the child only for making that selection. Rest of the things the child will
Yeah,
make
that's
it.
brilliant.
So whenever the child comes to my school for an admission, the first thing I tell the parent, I don't talk to the parent. First I talk to the child.
Right.
Then I tell the parent, let the child come, see the place, understand, and let the child decide for himself.
Right.
And let him say, this is the place for me to live.
Right.
Then I'm okay to give
Right.
admission.
Right. Right.
That's it.
So that's a nice way to put it, because earlier we used to push your kids to, you need to become a doctor, you need to, but I think placing the whole thing with the child, saying that you need to choose something from what is in front of you, I think that makes a whole lot of difference. From brilliant. I think that's something which we learned today. I was actually talking to a very senior professor from INSEAD the other day, and I think there was a discussion wherein we were talking about Indian education system and the Western education system. Now, predominantly what we have in Peevees is the Indian education system, be it in Middle East. Again, Middle East is a very typical Indianized way of education system. But the Western education system is very different. So, in the very basic fundamental of Indian education system is book knowledge. That's what is probably heard from. So you have various syllables, is various school syllabuses in India. Like you have the ICSE, you have the CBSE, you have the state board, you have, I don't know, something called an international board. You have so many boards in India right now. I want to understand, what, first of all, which is the best board, right? So student is a student, kid is a kid. Everybody wants to teach the kid, give the kids the best of education. Now, I'm passing out from a school board. Is that good? I'm passing out an ICSA. Is that good? Now, the Western doesn't have boards. It's a very different education system over there. You have one system for the entire range of kids, whether you are from a state or a international community or a business family, it doesn't matter, right? So the basic education is the same across. Now, for me, this is a challenge which I always face. Why is it that we have so much of differentiation in what is being taught to students, right? There is a student who is passing SSLC, there's a student who pass out the international board, and there's a student. What is the difference between all these, and why is this difference there in India, or is there going to be a change going forward?
Right. Uh, I think this may be a
Very, very technical.
technical and controversial too. So I have to be very careful in. I would rather say there are different types of board. Like you walk into a your um, textile showroom where you want to pick up,
Right.
right? So there are different colors, different texture. There are different, but you choose what you want.
Right.
Same the case applicable here.
So the system it's only the name which is different, but the education is the same.
A is A everywhere. B is B everywhere.
Yeah.
But how do we introduce that makes a lot of difference. Now, which is good, which is bad, I think it is the taker who has to decide.
Right. Right.
Now, we always believe in, even if it is when we say our school, basically, India's national board, CBSE.
Yeah.
So, even in school, we say we are CBSE plus.
Okay.
Because we go little beyond and try to give them,
Okay.
because you as a in-house team, you get to know what is required for your students.
Right.
So it's okay. I think now, it's a fantastic moment. Sunita Williams has landed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that maybe that will come in the textbook maybe next year. But why should the school wait for next year? I
You
think,
can do it.
you sit on the spot, strike the iron while it is hot.
Yeah.
So that's with the school. So it
Brilliant.
again,
I think that answers that question. How does technology affect education now? So when I used to be studying, we just had paper and a pencil. Today I have the iPads and you have the laptops and I don't think even there are schools which don't even have blackboards. They have probably screens on which you write with pen and all that fancy. How does technology affect students? From a educational point of view is one, from a career point of view is the other one. One is education. Okay, you need to use a laptop, you need to use operationally, you need these equipments to study. But from a career point of view, does that make a do you so when I used to I understood when I wrote my board exams, I've never used calculators and things like that. But I think today you're allowed to use calculators and things like that. So does that also make a difference? Does the student become a little bit easy because he doesn't know 1 plus 1 for 1 plus 1, he puts 1 plus 1 and get 2 on the screen? Does that make a difference?
um, yeah. Now again, the question is, um, when you are in Rome, be a Roman.
Yeah.
All right. So as the generation changes, there are a lot of things happens. For example, when you see in our generation, probably we used to start cursive writing in the schools.
Okay.
All right. But today they say not to use cursive writing because it can create a lot of confusion,
Right.
particularly doctors when they prescribe medicines. It should
Right.
not have, but if you see that the cursive writing, that was actually giving us a lot of speed
Right.
in writing.
Right.
So it's again your choice. You can, write in that because after Britishers have left, they say the best English, lies in India.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this could be one reason, maybe thanks to our school system.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
maybe when you talk about the first school in India, I think St. George's in Chennai,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's 2015 or
Yeah.
so. So I think we were very, very particular about the legacy that Britishers left. We wanted to take
Right.
it. But I think that was a very conscious move. And I think we were successful in it. Now, from there, when the technological development has happened, now many at times, because we live in a residential setup, so when most of the parents come and say, "My child is child is addicted to gadgets," so I think we wanted you to have some,
Right.
digital free time.
Right.
And what we do is from morning 5:30 to 10 o'clock, we make sure the child is very busy. The child spends time with the other kids and they play around, sweat it out, what they eat, they digest it,
Okay.
and their obesity comes, to normal by the time the child leaves the school.
Okay.
So we work in those lines also, okay. But technology is very, very important in
Yeah.
schools. The reason is, I think we know previously there are a lot of equipments we use, but today I think one mobile says it all.
Right.
So even today in my school, I find every year 4 short films are shot with the
Oh,
help of
well,
mobiles,
okay.
and the kids make it by the end of the year.
That's nice.
So I think they have everything within the system. So
Right.
I think it is a conscious move from the school.
Right.
Now I think once Dr. Devi Shetty from Narayan Hudayalaya was saying, imagine when our children are playing with video games or mobile games when they are playing, parents used to say, don't spend so much of a time,
Right.
which is okay. But parents cannot say, don't play with it.
Right.
Maybe this child becomes a robotic surgeon tomorrow,
Absolutely.
and if he is doing a surgery, fastest finger, if it
Absolutely.
is,
Absolutely.
if the child is not having that experience, the child is going to fail in the
Yeah.
career.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to connect to your
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
So,
So I got that.
yeah.
So I think technology plays a huge role, and I think I'm totally with you that you don't tell people not to do things, but everything in a controlled format is super important. I think that is very important. I think that's good. Now, one is you handle your kids. This is like the final question which I have. One is that you handle your kids, right? You have children coming over there, so you have right from small kids to mature adult kids who studies in the school. The other thing is handling the parents, right? You have parents who come to you with a lot of expectations, saying that I want my son to be the Einsteins of the world, and yeah, fairly enough, that is their kid and they want them to be the best. Now, how do you tackle situations wherein that it is not easy for somebody to become an Einstein, or to make maybe the whole direction, as you rightly said, that the whole direction of the children is very different from the direction of the mom and dad, right? The mom and dad wants him to become something, and the child wants to do something else. Now, how do you tackle such situation? Do you face such situations in your school, and do you actually tackle such kind of situations?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because some people, when they imagine, if parents are professionals and they have certain establishments, and they are very sure that tomorrow the child will have to take it,
Right.
so the child has to pass through the direction.
Right.
But the child is having much more different ideas, and the child wanted to do it. So normally it becomes kind of a tight
Right.
case,
Right.
where you have to convince both of them, make them sit, and they have to do. So, I think I would just narrate one small
Yeah.
this thing. I had a student a couple of years ago, and this boy wanted to do hotel management
Right.
those days. I mean, culinary skills he
Right.
wanted to do, and the parent was dead against. And the parent says, "I wanted him to become an engineer and things like that." And the parent started blaming someone in the family, one of his uncles who's into this. So he said he has learned from him, so I don't want him to go and all that. But then it took almost 6 to 8 hours for me to convince the gentleman
Okay.
to send the child.
So you take the time off to
We did, yeah. And but happiness is, I mean, I after this I have totally forgotten. But I think once when I was in Dubai, I get a call from this boy. And he says, "Ma'am, I'm in Dubai, and it is my show at this particular hotel. You please come." And he has become a pastry chef,
Very nice.
specialized in
Very
Italian
nice.
pastry. So, uh, I mean, there are success stories.
Yeah.
But then it is very important for us convincing both of them and understand where the child stands.
Right.
So that's the whole story about it.
I've been part of a lot of, I had written a few questions which I thought I should just look back into. I have written a very funny question over here. So, I consider myself to be very energetic. I consider myself to be very proactive, very energetic. But I think wherever we have met in various forums, various meetings, various seminars, or whatever we have met together, I see you to be more energetic than me, right? How does that work? Why are you more energetic? And is it that being a teacher brings the energy into you, or is it something which is you have always been energetic? I know you would have been energetic because seeing your thing right from an airline industry to even defense and things like that. Where does energy levels come from?
I think I owe it to my students,
Brilliant.
because I normally used to say, when there is a batch goes out of the school, indirectly it says, "Madam, you're getting old." But when the new batch comes, I say, "Oh my God, I'm stepping into that. I'm still younger."
Very
So
nice.
that's the secret.
So I think thank you so much, ma'am, for this short talk. We will probably invite you once, because this topic is a never-ending topic. It goes on and on. We will probably invite you sometime for another episode to give us more about our school and how it works. And thank you so much for being here. And it's a pleasure to always see you around in meetings. We will keep in touch. And for the viewers, Bridgeway, Peevees School is part of the Bridgeway Group, and it is one of the finest residential schools available in this part of the world. And it's got its presence globally also. I think in the Middle East, we have a couple of schools. We have one over here. And Sreedevi ma'am, we are talking to today, is the principal of the school over here. And it's been a pleasure to have her here. And thank you so much for watching. And this is episode 11. And thank you for all your wonderful, wonderful, wonderful viewership for the last 10 episodes.